All right, so I watched this Matt Dillahuntys debate on Secular Humanist. Which one, Craig? Yeah, there was a bunch of them. There's been a few lately. There was this, I put out a video that I haven't put out yet. I made a video on, there was some sort of, I guess, Muslim outreach on modern day debate. I'm not really sure what's going on, but there was a lot of debates with Muslims over the past couple of months. There were two with Matt Dillahuntys, one with a really radical fundamentalist Muslim that was a hilarious debate to watch. I wouldn't necessarily say it was a good debate, but it was really entertaining. He melted down a few times. It almost came to blows, it looked like. And then there was this debate, another debate with a very moderate Muslim. It was really interesting on secular humanism. And that moderate Muslim, it's worth watching because that Muslim is different from anyone you will see. Him and Matt Dillahuntys tended to agree a lot, and he actually agreed with secular humanism. And then there was a debate with Aaron Ra, the Muslim metaphysician. I put out did a deep dive on that. I'll put out that video at some point in the next couple weeks. And then he had this other debate with Bob on secular humanism again. Now, the interesting thing about this secular humanism with Matt Dillahuntys, there are two Matt Dillahuntys. Now, he will deny this, but this is actually the case. There are two Matt Dillahuntys at least. There is the civilized and intelligent Matt Dillahuntys that enters into debates, particularly on secular humanism. It's a good way to bring out the best in him. Why? Because he actually cares about secular humanism, and he's done some thinking about the values that it represents outside of just, his combat with Christians. So he actually cares about it to some degree. But there are two Matt Dillahuntys. There's civilized and intelligent Matt Dillahuntys who enters these debates, and he's could practically be a member of real atheology, even though I don't think he likes those guys anymore. Pretty sure he blocked Ben Watkins, but I don't know. I don't remember what that's about. I forget. But so there's that Matt Dillahuntys, and then there's the bully thug from the call-in shows who jerks your chain. He's basically like a worse version of Pine Creek, a mean version of Pine Creek. Pine Creek's saving grace is kind of fun and charming, and he can be somewhat nice. Matt Dillahuntys, the bully thug version of Pine Creek. And interesting side note, okay? They both do the same thing. They're both, when you go on the call-in show as a Christian, or when you talk to Pine Creek as a Christian, they're literally bending over backwards to jerk your chain, not represent anything you say fairly. Matt Dillahuntys is a tried and true methodology, which is like street tactics, I call it, and he does it almost every single time. The Christian calls up and starts presenting something. Matt Dillahuntys immediately cuts him off, starts asking him questions to lead him into these cul-de-sacs. He ostensibly, I just want to make sure it's all crap. He does the same thing as Pine Creek Doug. He is jerking your chain right from the start, participating in street tactics. The only thing that's really interesting is he's so much better than Pine Creek Doug, it's unbelievable. I kid you not. Pine Creek Doug, when he starts doing his little Pine Creek Doug routine, you can tell that he's jerking your chain from the second question. You're like, okay, that's not really a question, Pine Creek. I kind of know what you're doing. You're trying to lead me down a cul-de-sac. You're trying to set up a play and go, oh, gotcha, Craig. You feel like you're being manipulated like two questions in. Matt Dillahuntys, you sort of feel like you're being played a little, but you don't really understand the full extent of it. I didn't recognize how much I've been played. I watched the debate, I kid you not, a year later. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. He jerked my chain almost the whole time. I object to every minute of this. Like, you misrepresented me here. You led me to a cul-de-sac there. I said this, and then he says back to you what you say, but he misrepresents it slightly so he can play with you. I mean, it's unbelievable how good he was. I didn't even recognize how much I was being played until I listened to it. It's stuff like, I can't even go into it. I mean, I might do a full video on it where I unpack it because it's worth seeing. It's very skillful. But it's really corrupt. It's a terrible practice. Stuff like I said, my wife and I have had similar experience. You don't know what your wife experienced, what your wife has. You're not the same person. Like, I can't ask my wife. Like, I can't have any access to my wife's epistemic inner life. I mean, stuff like that. And you don't get really time to object because there's one play after another, and they happen really fast and you barely perceive it. It's really interesting. He's really good at it. But it's terrible practice. It's not honest engagement. It's really not. It's not even close. If anybody's curious, let me know. I'll make a standalone video where I just analyze how I got played by Matt Dillahuntys, because I didn't even recognize it until a year later. I was like, wait a minute. He played almost every minute of this. I object to every minute of this line of questioning. Like I said, with Pine Creek Doug, second question he asks you, you're like, okay, come on. What, do you think I'm stupid? This is so misleading. This is so not honest. You're just trying to set up a play. I know what you're doing. Like I told you, Pine Creek Doug in New York, they'd see him coming a mile away. He wouldn't have one line of question. People would have his wallet, they'd play along with him, and by the end of it, his wallet would be missing, his car would be missing, But Matt, he can really do it. He's really good at it. You don't even know what's happening. You barely perceive it. So, getting back to the issue at hand. So Matt Dillahunty is entering into this debate, and I'm optimistic. This secular humanist debate tends to bring out the best in him. It tends to bring out the civilized and intelligent version of Matt Dillahunty, as rare as it may be. It comes out only in formal debates, almost never on the show, on the call-in shows. Call-in shows, he's trying to jerk people's chain right from the start. It's actually really corrupting to watch. It starts to really get on your nerves. I don't watch that many of them, but I've started to watch them more of late, and they're awful. He's got a methodology that's just corrupt. Second the person starts talking, he starts, leading them down a cul-de-sac almost immediately. Immediately ask a question, put them on their back heels. Ostensibly to clarify things. He always justifies, it's a clarifying question. I don't want you going down this. I don't want you to present your argument clearly and concisely in a way that it can be heard and understood. I'd rather put you on your back heels right from the start and control the narrative. That's what he's not telling you. That's what he's actually doing. And he's good at it. So the person doesn't even perceive it happening. Pine Creek, everyone knows they're being played. Everybody who's been under, anyone object to that? A couple people listening to me, you've been interviewed by Pine Creek Doug, right? You knew you were being played what? Third question? You're like, okay, this isn't really a good line of inquiry. I don't really think this is, where are you going with this? I kind of know what you're doing. You're going to set me up here and you're going to set me up there and try to make me look foolish. Matt's doing the same thing. You just don't recognize it as much. So anyways, moving right along. So he's in this debate, and it's on secular humanism, which tends to bring out the best in him. Why? Because he has some actual skin in the game. He has actually thought about secular humanism independent of his interactions with Christians and why it's a better mousetrap, it's a better value system for him, and how it represents who he is. So you could really potentially have a fruitful dialogue with him. So I was optimistic going into it. You should watch the secular humanist one with the Muslim. That sort of happens. He has a dialogue with the Muslim, and it's productive, and they don't really combat. They agree on a lot. That's what I'm saying. Secular humanism tends to bring out the best in him. My only critique of his usual presentation is that he's a little too vague. He doesn't really spell out any of the tenets of secular humanism except to say vague sort of, not really vague sort of non-things like secular humanism is superior because, in secular humanism, we can go on the latest science and we can go on what's true and apply the latest science, whereas, in Christianity, you have to rely on the superstitions of an ancient book, stuff like that. I bet you even said that exact phrase. So that's usually what it is, a little bit too vague. But in this one, he actually spelt it out pretty well. He gave you some of the actual tenets, what it entails, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, basic human rights. I forget the details, but he gave us actually something to really go, okay, that's what secular humanism is all about. So I was optimistic as I'm watching this debate. I'm like, this is going to be a good conversation. The guy seemed actually really bright at first. I'm like, okay, he's intelligent. So watching the debate, they do this presentation, and then the guy gets to do a second presentation where he's got these 20 points about secular humanism. And I'm starting to get really optimistic because his 20 points, tactically, it's a little bit too much. It's not a book. If you're ever in a debate, I recommend never have 20 points about anything. Chisel it down to just the 3 most important. Why? Because it's just too many. But when I was listening to the 20 points, I was like, hey, some of these are pretty cool. Some of these are pertinent critiques of secular humanism. Even Matt Dillahuntys commented, like, I can't wait to cover some of this ground. Some of these questions you brought up are pretty interesting. So I was like, cool, this is going to be a great conversation. And then lo and behold, takes all of that goodwill and throws it out the window almost immediately and never recovers. I swear, I kid you not. Swear to God, that's what happened. Kid you not. He decides, for some mysterious reason, to only focus in on one aspect of secular humanism, which doesn't really have anything to do with secular humanism at all. Pro-life versus pro-choice. I was like, huh? He starts off with pro-life. I was like, what? Dude, are you kidding? Come on, dude, you had these 20 points, and so they're really good. Get to the good points. I was so annoyed because I was actually really optimistic. I was like, this is going to be a good conversation. And it can happen. If you don't believe me, go watch his not Daniel Hypocrisy or whatever. He had 2 conversations with the Muslims on Modern Day Debate. One is really fun and entertaining because it's off the charts, and they really don't like each other, and one with this mellow Muslim guy where the conversation was actually really productive. I'm not kidding. It was on Secular Humanism. So I thought this was going to be like that. The guy was obviously smart. He had 20 or so points. Yes, too many, but some of them were really good points about secular humanism, really fair, interesting critiques. And I was like, this is going to be great. Then he decides, for some mysterious reason, to zero in on pro-life versus pro-choice. Now, a couple big problems with that right from the jump. First of all, there's nothing about secular humanism that automatically entails pro-choice. Yeah, I mean, I understand most of the secular humanists are going to be pro-choice. Okay, but it's not part and parcel of secular humanism. It's not automatically entailed by it. It's not something, there are going to be some secular humanists who may be pro-life. So it's not really, it's the right thing to zero in on. And Matt Dillahunty pointed out to him correctly, this would be a good debate if the debate were pro-life versus pro-choice, which I've done. We could have done that debate, but this isn't about secular humanism at all. And I agree with Matt, he was correct. And furthermore, even in his debate on pro-life, his point was a little bit fallacious. He was trying to argue, and I kind of get why he chose it, because to this guy, the abortion is a Holocaust, and it's really, so his argument was basically, secular humanists say they value life and the betterment of humanity, but then they endorse abortion, but they don't automatically endorse abortion. That's the point. There can be secular humanists who are pro-life. I'm sure there are some who would reject that, right? And then he says, and abortion is a Holocaust, and they don't notice the Holocaust. I mean, I guess it's an okay point. Maybe it's one point you can make, but it was the centerpiece of his argument. I mean, I guess it's an okay point. Again, the problem is it's not automatically entailed in secular humanism. And then he doesn't bother to flesh out Matt Dillahunty's position on pro-choice. It wasn't clear what Matt Dillahunty thinks. I get that Matt Dillahunty is pro-choice for the most part, but one of the things you have to be careful of, and I learned this when Roe versus Wade was overturned. Europe, for example, I always thought of pro-choice. Well, it's not completely true. A lot of the countries are pro-choice, yes, but they have limits. I don't know exactly what those limits are, but there are limits. Like the 7th and 8th month, abortion becomes illegal. And it wasn't clear what Matt Dillahunty's position was. He said something to the effect of 7th and 8th month, it's a birth at that point. It wasn't clear what he meant. And the guy never really asked him, is abortion, because there are some people who are pro-choice who will have exceptions. Say exception rape, incest, or pro-life. There are people who are pro-life who will have exceptions. There are people who are pro-choice who will have exceptions. And the exceptions are, as you get later in the term, there are some people say, yeah, okay, then that's too much. And there are laws based on that. And it wasn't clear what Matt Dillahunty's position was, and the guy never really asked him. So basically the whole thing was a missed opportunity. It really was. Now, the second point he made was even worse. And these were his only 2 points. He shows up with the party with 20 points. 6 or 7 of those 20 points were really good. And then he zeroes in on 2 points, which weren't in his original presentation and weren't good at all. So it's a missed opportunity. And he threw the whole debate away. Then he starts complaining about the ref. The guy was like, he starts trying to work the ref like you every time he talks, you don't tell him to stop interrupting, but every time I interrupt, you tell me to stop interrupting. The ref was not being unfair. Matt Dillahunty has been in a lot more debates than this guy. This is how I gamed it out. You can make of this what you will, but I didn't think that the ref was being unfair at all. Matt Dillahunty's been in a lot more debates than this guy. It is possible to interrupt somebody without really interrupting him, where you just kind of get in a couple of words, but you don't have to be silenced, you don't have to be muted, he doesn't have to say anything because he only said a few things. Matt Dillahunty is pretty good at doing that. So you go, no, that's not my position at all, you just misrepresented me, and then you're quiet. Okay, you don't have to be muted, right? Because you only said a couple of things. Yeah, you got your say in, but you did it very quickly. That's not always what happened. Matt Dillahunty did talk over him a lot too, but the ref was trying to be as fair as humanly possible. That's my only understanding. The guy wasn't being unfair. Let's just put it that way. He really wasn't. Might have looked like he was favoring Matt, but no. As far as I could tell, he wasn't. And it's not a good form to start complaining about, it doesn't help you in the debate. It makes you look like, you're whining. If you're whining, you're losing. Just deal with the debate as it is. We can judge it fairly at home. If the guy's being unfair to Matt, we'll all pick it up. Unfairly scoring it in favor of Matt, we'll all pick that up. So I didn't think he was. And it doesn't help you to make a point of it. And he made a lot of points of it. And the second point he made was fallacious. His main second argument was absolutely dismal. It was, here's what you do, Matt. If it's secular humanism, you get to have it both ways. You get to say, well, that's just my opinion. That's not secular humanism, or that's secular humanism. That has nothing to do, that has not what I believe. And he says, you can't do that. Well, here's the problem. You can do that. That's one of the features of secular humanism, not a bug. Matt Dillahuntys even prefaced that right at the beginning. He said secular humanism has no dogma that we have to adhere to. So he literally gets to pick and choose as he sees fit. If he doesn't like the moral value that you're espousing, he says, okay, that's not me. That's not secular humanism. He gets to pick and choose as he fits. You can do it in Christianity too. By the way, everyone already does. Let me just clue you in on that if you didn't know that. Is that true, Craig? Yeah, that's true. Everyone already does that anyways. They pick and choose the things that they want to believe in Christianity, they want to follow and adhere to in Christianity, and they let the rest go. But in Christianity, you're technically not supposed to. They call it cafeteria Christianity. You can't just pick and choose what you want to believe in the gospel, Craig. I understand that, but everyone does it anyways. I'll give you the perfect example. The Bible literally says, right, wives submit to your husband. Correct? It says that, right? In black and white? Everyone's clear on that? It says that. Okay, tell my wife that. As far as my wife is concerned, it doesn't say that at all. Pretty sure she knows it says it, but it might as well not. Why? Because she never even once even thought about trying to do it. Never in the wildest imagination. Never even thought about it. It just came up on it a long time ago. Well, sweetheart, you see it says submit to me, right? You see that it says that black and white, plain English? And you're trying to live out the word of God, right? Okay, well, let's go. Let's start submitting. Didn't even try. Didn't even think about trying. So a lot of Christians do that. There are things in the Bible that they just casually disregard, or sometimes, completely disregard as they see fit. Technically, you're not supposed to do it in Christianity, but you're never really going to catch a Christian on that well either. As a matter of fact, I get really annoyed when atheists try to do it, because usually it's really obviously they're just trying to jerk your chain. The problem, you're certainly never going to catch a secular humanist on that. Why? Because it's a feature. They get to do that. There's no dogma. So Matt Dillahuntys can pick and choose as he sees fit. Well, most secular humanists say that, but I say this. And most secular humanists believe that, but I believe this. He gets to do that. You can sort of do it with Christianity too, but it's a little bit harder to justify because we're technically supposed to be living out the Word of God, right? We're supposed to be living by the Bible. But everybody does it in Christianity too. Now, even in Christianity, if they try to catch on that, usually the atheist is trying to jerk your chain, and it's really annoying. Because it's so fake. The atheist, the time where it happens to me is the atheist is on Twitter literally driving me crazy, literally bending over backwards to make sure that I'm really annoyed with him. And then I finally get mad at him and start mouthing off, oh, there's no hate like Christian love. There's no hate like Christian love. You've heard him say that, right? So annoying. Because the guy really if there is a conflict between you and I, okay, I'm not acting at being peaceful and easy to get along with. I really am. I had to take that off my Twitter feed. I said, easy going. And these atheists came and started jerking my chain and acting like total dicks for 2 straight hours. So I start fighting back eventually and getting mad. They're like, oh, peaceful and easy going, huh? No, not always and forever. And if you come and test my patience and try to wear me out, eventually I'm going to get annoyed. Oh, there's no hate like Christian love. After you've worked really hard to make sure that you and I are conflicting, we're going to conflict. I'm not like Dillahunty. I don't get mad at you after 3 sentences. Oh my God. I don't get mad at you. The same thing every week with the delay on the thing throws a lot of people off, and he gets mad at almost everybody who goes, can you hear me? I can hear you. He got mad at me 5 times on that. Happens every single time someone's on the thing. Someone goes, he's actually really impatient with people, usually, often. I can be really patient. I can be patient for long periods of time, but eventually if you're trying really hard to be a dick, guess what? You're going to wear me out, I'm going to get mad, I'm going to start fighting. That's when they usually jerk your chain. Oh, no hate like Christian love. You're supposed to be patient and long-suffering with me, Craig, after I've just acted like a total dick for 3 straight hours. No, I'm done being patient and long-suffering with you, fool. I'm totally had enough. I can tell you what you're about, and I want no more part of it. So, it's never really a good thing to accuse somebody of hypocrisy on something where they're not being really, really hypocritical is not a good look. So it was a total missed opportunity. Here was Matt Dillahuntys potentially at his best. Okay, I kid you not. When he's talking secular humanism, that's the time you are most likely to find civilized and intelligent Matt Dillahuntys. This guy takes that opportunity and flushes it down the toilet, as far as I'm concerned, on 2 points that aren't even worth debating. Now, for the end of this video, let's just say what I would say about secular humanism. And this would be my critique. And if you are a secular humanist at home, playing along at home, really think about this. Why? Because this is actually a really good point. You haven't heard it before. Okay, one of the things about secular humanism that I would zero in on is the fact it is basically, at its core, and Matt Dillahuntys does acknowledge this, it is indistinguishable in many ways from Christianity. A lot of the things that a secular humanist would adhere to, really adhere to as part and parcel of secular humanism. That's why pro-life isn't a good one. Pro-choice versus pro-life. Yeah, I understand most secular humanists are pro-choice, but it's not automatically entailed in secular humanism. Even if they technically put it in the manifesto, it's not like freedom of speech, freedom of religion. We adhere to secular values, secular meaning not according to any transcendent morality, humanism for the betterment of humanity. You know, there's a lot of things that you could say that are generally and specifically applicable to secular humanism, and then critique it on those grounds and those grounds alone, right? Or point out its similarities to Christianity and just try and argue why Christianity is the better mousetrap, right? Is everyone clear on what I said so far? That's the tact I would take, okay? So you zero in on something like basic human rights. Almost every secular humanist would tell you that there is something as the basic human rights. Until the basic human rights are equally guaranteed to all without regard for race. Me say war, and until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes. Me say war. War, Bob Marley. Killer track, by the way. Killer track. One of the best there is. Basic human rights is a tenet held to by most secular humanists. Okay, so examine the predicate for basic human rights. Remember, secular, not according to any transcendent morality. Okay, so what is basic human rights exactly? Well, what it is universal ought. A universal ought, it is something that you think applies not to this group over here for a limited period of time and only this group over here, something that you think applies round the boards for all people, all places, for the betterment of humanity, correct? Okay, that would be a universal ought. As a secular humanist and as an atheist, what is the predicate for a universal ought? What is the predicate for it? How do you come to the conclusion that a universal ought is for the betterment of humanity? You see what I'm getting at? If we go back to the words of Hume, and I bring this up a lot, memorize this phrase. It will help you in the arguments to come, help you see clearly. You cannot derive an ought from an is. What does that mean? You have an ought, that the value system, which is transcendent, immaterial, not according to the material facts. Matt Dillahuntys said in this video maybe 10 times, one of the superior things about secular humanism is that it is empirically verified. Empirically verified. We hold to things that are empirically verified. Okay, in the case of the universal ought, that is not the case. In the case of almost every value that you would say are the transcendent values of secular humanism, that is not the case. They are not found in empirical facts. That's what it means you cannot derive an ought from an is. They are not located in the data points. They are transcendent to it, which means outside of it, not according to it. So how do you justify as an atheist the value system of secular humanism? It's a real question. And it's a real question that looks for an answer outside of theism. Theist, it's easy. Theist, it's easy. I can predicate it on the Bible. And Matt Dillahuntys would probably go, Bible what? You slaves, you beat your slaves, and you genocide, and you beat your slaves, and Jesus drowns babies? No, not those particular scriptures. So let's take a look at some of the universal oughts now, there might be differences in whichever secular humanist you talk to, but they're all going to agree on some grab bag of these ideas, okay? Universalist in nature, that everyone is a child of God. In the Bible, you have a predicate for it. Every man is made in the image of God. So everyone is what? A child of God by definition, according to the scriptures. Okay, what is the justification for everybody being of equal worth I would even automatically want to say in the eyes of God? in secular humanism. All men are created equal, they aren't. All men have intrinsic worth, okay? That's the value system. See, the values overlap. And what Matt Dillahunty would call some of the values that he's actually really thought about, this is why this could be a productive dialogue, and are really near and dear to his heart. And he does recognize that they produce what he holds most dear in Western civilization. And he does recognize their origins in Christianity. What you can get him to recognize is there's no other origin for them anywhere else. Why? Because they cannot be found according to empirical facts. You cannot derive an ought from an is. You certainly can't derive a universal ought from an is. So he says one of the ways that he knows what's true is empirical verification. By the way, it's too close to logical positivism. You're going to have to expand on that. And when atheists expand on that, they're going to have to automatically start looking to things like transcendent, immaterial value structures. But it's easy to justify those given theism. How on earth do you reconcile to atheism? You can't. You can't. Really think about it. What are you saying with a universal ought? You are saying, in all cases, this is the better way. This ought to be the case for every human being everywhere. Everyone is made in the image of God is a perfect way to justify why everyone should be given equal as intrinsic worth. Why? Because we're all God's children equally. There's no variation there. You see how that actually works as a justification? Okay, try and justify it given secularism. We're all equal. We're all equal. No, we're not. I'm a lot better looking than most of you, really, honest to God. A lot better endowed. I don't want to brag, but a lot. Yeah, packing a lot more downstairs than most of you by a lot. So we're not all equal. That isn't true. In Christianity, there's two prominent justifications for the intrinsic worth of human beings. One, we're all in the image of God, and then in the New Testament, Jesus said, that which you have done unto least of my children, you've done unto me. So the thing that the homeless guy has intrinsic worth, of equal intrinsic worth in the eyes of God to you. Why? Because they're all part of God's family. So that's a really good justification. How are you going to justify it given secular atheism? How? You can't. You can't. Really think about that value structure and think about how that is near and dear to your heart. And you think it's a better way. And then think about the fact it can't be justified given secular humanism. At all. At all. Listen to Richard Dawkins. What's his famous, blind, pitiless indifference? Does blind, pitiless indifference give everyone intrinsic moral worth? No, it does not. It doesn't care about the intrinsic worth of anybody at all. So if there is such a thing out there in the world, and there is such a thing out there as the world, is a better value system, and this is how you recognize that it's a better value system as a secular humanist. Is everyone listening? Pay attention. It's a great point. How do you recognize that it is a better value system as a secular humanist? Because you thought it was a better value system when you came to the debate. It's in your secular humanist manifesto as a better value system, as a better way. The only thing that isn't in there is a way to justify it. Why? Because you say empirical verification isn't found in empirical verification at all. It cannot be justified according to how, atoms interact at all. So if it is the better way, what is the only potential justification on the table? You see where I'm going with this? Do you see why these are potentially really good arguments? Does everyone understand that? Okay, so let's unpack it further. Let's say a universal ought is transcendent, immaterial. You are saying that something is forever and always true. That is a universal ought. You're not just saying it's true now with this group of people over here. You're saying it is forever and always true. It is eternally the case. How could that possibly have arisen from interaction of physical properties? It can't. Think about that. If you're an atheist, what do you think is the origin of the universe? In the beginning, stuff, right? In the beginning, a gas met another gas. And these properties interact with these other properties and somehow arose organically from that. A transcendent, immaterial, invisible value system that is forever and always true. That's just not possible. It's not possible. Okay? It's not. Yeah, it is. No, it isn't. It's not even close. It's not even close to possible. In the beginning, God, and in the mind of God, these are the better values, and these are eternally and always true. Why? Because they come from the mind of God. Eternally the case. Before the beginning of time. A value system that is universally and always the case transcends time itself. How does a localized little gas or a localized atom interact with another atom and produce something that transcends time itself? It's not possible. It's not even remotely plausible. And you have already told me, based on your interpretation of secular humanism, not mine, you weren't cheating. Nobody was there saying, choose things that you can only really justify with God belief. No one was cheating. No one was whispering in your ear saying, only write down values that really only can be found in theism. No one said that to you, right? When you were coming up with your secular humanist manifesto, was someone staring over your shoulder and saying, make sure that these can only be justified, that these are impossible to justify given atheism. But they are. Impossible. Easy to justify given theism, possible to justify given atheism. Now, I'm not saying that's an argument that's going to require you to think. It's not something that you can debunk in this sitting or any sitting. Why? Because it's pretty much the case. Is it going to get you to recognize the truth of theism? Probably not, but really think about it. Why? Because if you hold those values near and dear and sacred to your heart, and if you're an actual secular humanist, you do. You've done some thinking on the matter. You've actually given over to it and really thought about it and decided that Western civilization, for all its faults, is superior to other civilizations. And you decided that based on universal oughts. That's what you've decided it on. Free speech. The basic human rights, the inalienable rights of man. You've decided that that is a better way to live, and you are correct. We share the value system. Mine is founded in Christianity. Yours has no foundation for it whatsoever, and there's no way to justify it in your worldview and paradigm of reality. I mean, I'll sit here and wait for you to come up with another way to justify it. It's not going to happen. Why? Because it's literally almost impossible to do. I already explained it. A universal, transcendent, immaterial, eternally true the case, a universal ought, is something that transcends time and space. You're telling me that two gases interacted and it organically arose? Doesn't seem possible. That's why I said these arguments, when I fully unpack them, they're going to be game changers. Why? Because there's a whole bunch of these things. There isn't just one type of universal ought. There isn't just one type of ought that you can't derive from or is out there. There's thousands. Literally thousands. It's totally untouched, untraversed territory between theism and atheism. You know, present it to Matt Dillahuntys. Ask him how he justifies basic human rights given atheism. Say, I could guess at what he's going to say. I'm not aware that I have to justify it. You haven't presented me that I have to justify given atheism. But really think about it. I'm not saying that it's a gotcha for a debate. I don't care about winning a debate. I'm saying really think about it. If these value systems are eternally the case and they're what you hold near and dear, try and think of a way to reconcile them to the world we actually live in without God. Try and really think of a universal ought and how it can possibly be the case if there isn't a God. It can't be. That's my assertion. Think about it. Not asking you to answer it here. I'm asking you to really think about it. If you are truly a secular humanist, then you truly recognize there are better values out there. And they're entailed in the Secular Humanist Manifesto. I could go through them brick by brick and tell you which ones really, really are hard to justify given atheism. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. Right? Because they're universal oughts. Hume was 100% correct. What? You cannot derive an ought from an is, ever. Why? It's not found there. It's not found in the empirical data points. It is transcendent and immaterial. Hence, no spatial, temporal locality at all. You can't mix two gases and get it. You can't mix two gases and find it. Why? It has no spatial, temporal locality at all. And if it is universally the case as a better value system, then it has ontological status, as I tried to argue in other debates or other videos. Has ontological status. Why? Because it's universally the case as a better value system, according to the secular humanists. According to the secular humanists. Secular, not according to any transcendent morality, except what? In the values that we espouse. You see the problem there? You see the contradiction? It's not that easy to see. I'm not thinking everyone's going to get it from this video. Some of you will. It's not that easy to see. Think of it again. Secular, not according to any transcendent morality. No God need apply, except here are some of the values that we espouse, and they're universal oughts, which means what? According to a transcendent morality. Get it now? Not according to a transcendent morality, according to the word secular, but then when you actually look at the value system, guess what? Transcendent morality is the only possible justification. Do you get it now? It's why Jordan Peterson started trending towards Christianity. Why? Because he recognized that the value system, why Ron did? Because he recognized that the value system, Western civilization, was superior in many ways. There are values that we hold near and dear to our heart that are essentially true. And they build a better society, and they're foundational to a better society. Not a perfectly just society, no. but a better society. You want to live in a society where your basic rights are a thing rather than not, right? Correct? Okay, that's an easy one to everyone agree to. Why? Because you're better off with basic human rights. But you can't justify them according to anything other than ultimately Christianity. That's why Ron started trending towards Christianity. Started recognizing that the value system that he was raised in is the superior and correct value system. Ask him. Ask him. He'll tell you. A lot of you can start trending the same way. Why? Because it's the truth. That's why. Because it's actually the truth. So, there you have it, kids. That's all for now. Another slam dunk of a video if you ask me, but, you know, I'm biased in my favor. I'm biased in favor of the greatness of my own videos. I really am. I really think I'm providing some, you know, at least very entertaining videos. As far as the debate itself goes, no, don't even bother. The guy's just going to frustrate you. It's such a missed opportunity. The guy's smart, and he had really good points about secular humanism and threw them all away on stupid points. You know, secular humanism is, most secular humanists are pro-choice. That is not something that is automatically entailed with secular humanists. It's not freedom of speech. It's not freedom of religion. It's not basic human rights. It's not everyone votes. It's not the same thing. It's really not. Yeah, most secular humanists are going to be pro-choice, but some of them will be nominally pro-choice too. Some of them will have restrictions on them, which greatly makes it a more humane practice. Like I said, secular Europe has restrictions on their pro-choice. They had limits. I didn't know that until Roe v. Wade was overturned. I was surprised to find that out, but it's the case. I don't know what the limits are. I don't remember. I learned it then, forgot it now. It's not relevant. The point is, it's not a good argument against secular humanism. So there are qualifiers on that as a secular humanist. And he had good points in there. He really did. And the other point, you know, that's just kind of trying to gotcha Matt Dillahuntys. It's not going to work. You're never going to gotcha Matt Dillahuntys. You shouldn't even try. Shouldn't try. Really. Nobody should ever try. Why? Because he's been doing this for too long. He's too good at it. I didn't even recognize I was being played by him until a year later. I'm not kidding. And I'm not kidding. Pine Creek Doug starts asking you questions. 2 questions in, and I'm like, Jesus, you're checking my chain this much already? Are you kidding? You're checking my chain, dude. I don't want to answer this. Why? Because you're trying to lead me down a cul-de-sac. What, do you think I'm an idiot? Maybe you don't recognize what you're doing, but I know what you're doing. You're trying to lead me down a cul-de-sac. So gotcha. I've seen him do that every single time he asks questions. I can prove it to you. I've seen him ask literally this question of somebody. This guy says he's he goes, you believe the Bible is inerrant? The guy's like, yeah, it's a fundamentalist Christian. Fundamentalist Christians, he does it on morning, noon, and night. So, do you think it's wrong to drown babies? Where's he going with that? Gee, I knew exactly where he's going. Jesus drowned babies in the Old Testament. Ooh, you just said the Bible's inerrant. Ooh, gotcha. He does that every single time he asks questions. Every single time he asks questions to lead you to his little trap. I lead you, gotcha. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's a show and not a very good one. Matt Dillahuntys is a show too. It's a magic act, but a really good one. You can't perceive it happening to you. He studies magic. Doesn't surprise me. Why? He'd be really good at it. He's good at making you think. When he interrupts people almost immediately, and he gets them on his side somehow. I swear to God, he's really good at playing people. Nobody perceives it happening to him when it happens. Pine Creek, almost everybody gets it. Almost everybody's like, come on. Everybody's smart. Everybody's smart. It's like, come on, dude. I know you're playing me. You know you're playing me. Well, can we just all have a real conversation? Can we just stop? And then he won't admit it. Well, what is a real question, Craig? I tried to get him to acknowledge it, and it was like pulling teeth. What's a real question, Craig? What would be an example of a real question? Like, you don't know. You know what a real question is, Pine Creek. You're not an idiot. Stop doing your stupid manipulative song and dance. Well, it's not going to work that much. It's already dead. Go to politics. You're much better at politics. Why? Because you're 100% honest as far as I can tell in your politics. Yeah, it's controversial though, Craig. I understand that. It's got some controversial. I don't know. I guess he's for gun rights or something. I'm not sure. He's vaguely conservative. It's not all that conservative. He's conservative for Twitter. Yeah, he's like practically, Heinrich Himmler. But he's not all that. He's like center right. He's not Mr. MAGA. He's like vaguely conservative. It's really controversial because most atheists are absurdly left wing, wokesters. Most of the stuff is, mildly conservative, I would say. I don't know. I don't watch much of it. I just noticed that it's 100% honest, usually, because it's coming from his real place of what he actually believes. And he's not trying to jerk anybody's chain about anything. He's just presenting what he thinks is right. If he did that with atheism, Christianity, I have no objection to any of his content. If you did that with Christianity atheism, I'd have no objections to any of your content. You don't do that at all with Christianity atheism. You don't just present what you think is true. You never do that. Never. I've never heard you do that with atheism. You do it all the time with right-wing stuff. You just present what you think is right. And you present an argument. You don't try to gotcha somebody into showing them what they think. You don't do that at all, as far as I can see. So, there you go. It's 100% more honest. More controversial. But why is it more honest? Because what his heart actually says. As far as I can tell, it's 100% the truth according to him. It's coming from a completely honest place, as far as I can tell. That's just my first impression. I haven't, to be perfectly fair, I haven't watched that much of his right wing or his Christian stuff in a long time. I watch his Christian stuff, I get too annoyed. I'm just like, come on, dude. Anybody who can't see through this is an idiot. This is a waste of everybody's time. It's a waste of everyone's time, Pine Creek, ultimately. You're smarter than that. You're a smart guy. Stop wasting everyone's time. They're not real arguments. I just told you how one works. Oh, you think the Bible's... This is one you've actually done 10 times. I can watch this maybe five times, and then I never want to watch it again. Why? Because it's not worth the time to even watch. Oh, you believe the Bible's inerrant? So you think drowning babies is wrong? I've seen you run that exact play. And I know exactly where you're going. Oh, God drowned babies in the Old Testament. You didn't know that? Oh, so the Bible inerrant? I gotcha. It's not even worth doing. It's not even worth doing, Pine Creek. It's not. Just tell him, I don't think the Bible's inerrant. Just tell him the truth according to you. Why do you never do that? Because I think you know you're wrong on some level, or you just do it. That's why you do it with conservative stuff, probably because you think you're right. It's the only thing I can guess at. I have no idea why he doesn't do it. With conservative stuff, he just tells you what he thinks. Period. Tells you what he thinks. Trans women should... It's unfair to have trans women, men transition women playing sports. He just tells you straight up what he thinks. So that's it. That's how it is according to me. So anyways, there you have it, kids. Rambling a little at the end, sure. But, I think my ramblings are just as productive as any of the other content on my videos, tell you God's honest truth. So there you have it, kids. With that, I will wrap her up. Another slam dunk of a video. Joe, what'd you think about this one? Oh, smashingly good, Craig. Chitio. Nailed it with that one, with the stuff you said at Pine Creek at the end. Just, absolutely priceless. Absolutely priceless. Well, thank you, Joe. Thank you for the support. It's an atheist. That's an atheist telling you how good this video was. So there how you know it's true. So the evidence suggests that this video is great. The evidence is clearly in favor of this video being a total slam dunk, Craig. Smashingly good. Smashingly good. Chitio. Chitio, then. Thanks, Joe. So there you have it, kids. That's all for now. Don't bother checking out his Secular Humanist video with the guy, Bob. Go watch the one with the Muslim. The Muslim one will blow your mind. Right? He's a very peaceful secular Muslim. If you didn't think such an entity like that exists, now you know they do. He's a very westernized, secular... I bet you he's beheaded almost nobody. Bet you he's beheaded almost no one. Seriously, I don't think he's beheaded anybody. He's very peaceful, down-to-earth Muslim. If you do not think that someone like that can exist, go check it out. Because he'll blow your mind a little, I don't know where he was raised. He may have said in the video. I could only guess. I have no idea. So you could watch just based off that. It's interesting. They have a real conversation. Like I said, secular humanism tends to bring out the best in Matt Dillahuntys. Why? Because he actually thinks about it outside of, let me just jerk Christians chained with stupid stuff about, slavery in the Old Testament. He found out that the Bible endorsed slavery in the Old Testament, and he's never thought about it past that point ever in his life. He's just used it as a tool. Here's a tool to jerk Christians chained with. Gotcha. I swear to God, he's never thought about it in his life. Secular humanists thought about it a lot, and it's obvious. So that brings out the best in him. And you could probably have a conversation where you're a more civilized, philosophical Matt Dillahuntys, a better Matt Dillahuntys. So I was really hopeful about this video, and then the guy blew it. So there you have it, kids. That's all for now. Mass has ended. Go in peace. Amen.